All right, good afternoon, Northwood High School. This is Miss Christofferson again. Back for Plus One Monday, week 4 for organization. And today we're going to spend some time talking a little bit about note-taking tips. All right, but before we move on to that, let's kind of review what we've been going over the previous weeks. All right, last week we talked a little bit about how to organize your notebook, and I just wanted to go over the big ideas with you guys, just to let you know that this is something that we're looking for. One of the ideas that I gave you is obviously to follow your teacher's guidelines. If your teacher has very specific guidelines for you to follow as far as setting up your notebook, then do it. I know for my biology class I do, and part of the problem why my kids are not organized is because they are not following my guidelines. So definitely check it out, get it set up. If you're not sure what your teacher needs, go talk to them. Idea number 2 was the one huge binder, have all of your classes in it. We call it the Avid way. Hope you guys have had the opportunity to look at some of the Avid Kids binders. They're pretty cool, pretty neat, and they could probably help explain what's going on with that as well. The very last one that I gave you guys was one is the magic number. Basically, one notebook or folder per class. And color coordinating it actually makes it a little bit easier as well. And I basically opened up my cabinet full of goodies to you guys. I've had one student come by and actually get 2 notebooks from me, and that was pretty exciting. So if you guys need any of these supplies, folders, anything like that, come by and talk to me, 512, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Again, those expectations for the notebooks is basically we don't want any loose papers in the notebook or in your book bag. Let's try to start getting those together. And ideally what we would like is we would like to have all the materials for one class in one spot. So again, this is what we talked about last week. All right. The week before that, we talked a little bit about planners, and you guys had your first planner check. I guess it was last week. You had a peer binder check. Oops, planner check, excuse me. This week we're going to do a little bit differently. You guys are actually going to open up your planners, have them out on your desk, and the teachers are going to come by and check it out. So teachers, again, you kind of know the drill. I put this on the wiki. Just look to see how they did. You could put it on your attendance sheet or on a scrap piece of paper and just kind of see what's going on. If you have any questions for the kids about what they're doing, feel free to ask. I know I've seen some in my Avid class where kids were keeping on the computers and it looked really good. So hopefully these planners are kind of coming together. Okay? All right, so as your teachers are doing that, you guys are actually going to listen to me talk to you a little bit about effective note-taking skills. And the big question is why are we doing this? Okay, I imagine that a lot of you guys might be pretty good at taking notes, but some of us are not so good at taking notes. So why are we not good at taking notes? And one thing that I've noticed with a lot of my students is basically they try to get down every little thing that I say, word for word, on their notes. And, you know, a lot of kids are like, well, my teachers are saying it. It's important. Yeah, that's true. But we're going to say a lot of stuff. All right. And what you need to figure out how to do is basically how to summarize all of that, which is what we're going to talk about today. The problem with getting down every single fact is that basically it eliminates any thought on your part. You're basically just copying exactly what is up on the PowerPoint or what your teacher writes on the board or what is being said. So basically you're making no connection between the notes and what's in your mind and how these things fit together. And we don't want that, okay? What we really want you to do is we want you to be an active note taker. And this is one thing I tell my kids all the time is I tell my kids to be better than a robot, which sounds really silly. But basically, I just don't want you to sit in there and copy everything that I have up there on the board. Please, please, please summarize it, okay? Summarize it. Be an active learner, an active note taker. And trust me, all your teachers want that to happen, okay? So actually, what we're going to do today is you guys are going to use your composition books. You've probably been wondering, when are we going to do this? So why don't you guys take a few to get those composition books. If you guys don't have a composition book, you need to get one. All right, get out a piece of paper if you don't have that. So teachers, if you need to have give your kids time to do that, feel free to hit pause on this video while they get prepared. Okay, you're going to take notes on taking notes. All right, so how do you take effective notes? What are some hints here for you? Now basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down to before class, during class, and after class, okay? And we're going to spend some time talking about things that you can do during that time, all right? As you guys are taking notes, again, try to pay attention to things that I'm pointing out to you, okay? And try to do some of these things as well. All right, that would be awesome. All right, so some hints before class. Number one, before class, how to take effective notes. If you happen to get assigned reading, do it, okay? That's a very important thing. Or review any notes that you might have before class. This is going to be probably not for every class at this school. I know for a lot of the AP courses, this is a huge one. And those of you going to college, this is going to be huge. All right, you're going to have tons of assigned reading, and you're expected to do that before you go to class. And that is actually something that can help you out considerably. So if the teacher says, hey, do this before class, do it. Okay? The second thing is to stay organized. Get your stuff together, okay? Be organized. I know that seems kind of silly and it seems like I'm throwing this out there all the time, but you'll be amazed at how much this will help you, okay? You will be amazed. Hopefully somebody is listening to me out there, please, okay? Play the game. Get organized, all right? So before class is very short and sweet. During class is going to be the great big huge one, okay? So number 2, here are some things that you need to do during class, all right? First thing, become familiar with your teacher's style. You guys have had many teachers in your whole school career, and every teacher has their own particular style, especially how they teach, okay? So there's little things that you can see your teachers do. Now, maybe not all of them do it, but they might do some of these things, and it's something that you need to pay attention to. First and foremost, during class, you should listen for repetition. I know when I really want my kids to get a point down, I repeat it several times for them, okay? That's a huge thing. It's kind of like saying, hey, write this down, okay, without saying, hey, write this down. Sometimes we don't want to be so obvious, and sometimes that we do, okay? So please listen for your teachers repeating certain things, okay? Number 2, what you can do during class and becoming familiar with your teacher's style is listening for them to have certain pauses in what they're saying. They might pause what they say, or they might actually slow down and say things a little bit slower. Now, again, this depends on the teacher. I don't think I ever slow down. For those of you that have me, you should be familiar with that, and probably on these videos you're picking up on that as well. But again, every teacher is going to be a little bit different. So some of your teachers might have pauses, or they actually might slow down for very important facts or things that they want you to get, okay? Another thing that you can do during class and becoming with your teacher's style is listen to intro phases. I've actually been doing this while I'm talking to you. What? And that was on purpose. I knew this one was coming. All right, listen for phrases like number 1, before class, number 2, during class, okay? These are pretty big things, all right? So listen for any type of intro phase that they might give. The first 3 steps are the function is, the summary happened in 1892, this happened, okay? Those are really bad examples, the majority of them, but hopefully you guys get what I'm going for there, okay? And again, that depends on the teacher, all right? Now, if your teachers don't do a PowerPoint presentation, okay, they might write on the board, all right? So typically, if a teacher is going to spend time to write something on the board, more than likely it's going to be pretty important. I know when I write things on the board, I don't like to write because nobody can read my handwriting, one. But also, if I'm going to take the time to do that, it's going to be something pretty important that I'm writing on the board, and that is something that you should pay attention to, okay? I don't imagine you got teachers up there writing a whole paragraph, okay? So pay attention to those key facts, okay? So those are all things that you can do to become familiar with your teacher's style. Very important thing to remember, okay? Another thing that you can do during class, okay, is to keep your notes brief, all right? Keep your notes brief. I know when I was in high school, I had a hard time with this because actually I like to write. Even though nobody can read my handwriting, I just like writing long notes for some reason. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But what I would find is that at the end of taking notes, I would have like pages of nonsense, and really I only needed about 2 pages out of 4 pages of notes just because I'm just writing, okay? But I noticed as I was writing, I missed an awful lot of things, okay? So this was something that I learned later on in my high school career, and definitely in my college career. So please do not write down every word, okay? That's where you're going to get into problems. All right, listen to your teacher's cues. Listen to, or if you have the PowerPoint, read it and then summarize it. You'll be amazed at how much that'll help you because you're actually being active with your notes and you're being better than a robot, okay? This next slide I stole from Miss Switzenberg, and it just cracked me up because this is one that I deal with in my class because I really want to be this teacher hitting my head against the board. It says students write down each PowerPoint slide word for word and constantly ask to go back to a slide so they can finish copying. And you complain that class runs long. Actually, that person's much kinder than I am, because if a kid asks me to go back, oftentimes I'll say no and I'll just move on, which is kind of a mean thing to do. We don't have time for that, okay? We got lots of other things to do, and you need to start learning how to summarize, okay? So, again, do not write everything down. So, what are some ways that can help you move a little bit faster as far as not writing everything down? Abbreviate. Your generation is like kings and queens of abbreviations. Goodness gracious, I don't even know what half the stuff that you use means. I found myself looking things up several times. I don't know what it is. So abbreviate. Now remember, there's a time and a place to abbreviate, okay? What I mean by that is that if you're turning in a paper, or if you're answering questions for homework or for an assignment that you're going to turn in, don't use abbreviations like I hate IDK. God, I hate IDK. Or other things up there. The number 4 for the word for, okay, like FOR. But for your own personal notes, it's yours. Tear it up. Abbreviate, okay? That'll make it go a lot faster, okay? You can definitely use shorthand as well, all right? I'm a queen of shorthand now, all right? Another thing you can do to keep your notes brief is write down keywords and short phrases, okay? So I know whenever I'm teaching, I have my PowerPoint slides up there and I'll have a huge definition. Like I could say the function of a ribosome is the location of protein synthesis. This is where proteins are manufactured, okay? Goodness gracious, that's a long little definition there. So what I do when I teach, this is learning your teacher style, is I always paraphrase it. I make it shorter, okay? Kind of a short way to write it in your notes. So if you have a PowerPoint slide up there, listen to your teachers, and they might give you those keywords or those short phrases. But if you don't want to do that, how you could shorten that definition is say ribosomes, protein synthesis, make proteins. Done. That is essentially what I just said. Okay, and now that's knowing some vocabulary and translating some vocab, which we're going to get to here in a second. But it means the exact same thing, you guys, and you made it your own. You made your brain work a little bit. Okay, that's a really good thing. All right, so not only can you abbreviate like we just talked about, and there's actually some abbreviations up here as well, but you can use symbols when possible. That's huge, okay? Like here they have the 4 up here and the 2. Those drive me crazy. Please don't ever do that in any assignment that you turn into your teacher. Again, your notes are fine. Symbols for and. I know I use this with one a lot when I write notes, because like a B/C, arrows, okay? You can establish your own system if you want to. Again, these are your notes, but these are ways to make them a lot shorter, okay? All right, next one, in keeping your notes brief. If you fall behind, please don't ask your teacher to go back. Of course, you can always ask a question, but oftentimes when teachers are in their groove, it's hard to interrupt, okay? And sometimes they don't like that. I know I don't like that so much. But don't get notes from a partner. I can't stand that when a kid gets behind and I see them leaning over to their lab partner and saying, can I borrow your notes? Like, you're going to get even further behind, okay? Farther behind. Not a good idea. So what you can do is just accept the fact that you missed something, okay? And that you're going to be okay. The world will go on, okay? Leave a blank spot like you see right here in these notes, and then come back to it, okay? That's not going to hurt anything, all right? Because if you stop and you get that, not only are you going to be behind, your partner's going to be behind, and you're going to disrupt your teacher, okay? So leave a blank spot, and you can always come back to it. Okay, this next one, in keeping your notes brief, this is kind of not so much keeping your notes brief, but this is kind of more helping you during class. This was one that I started to do later on in my high school career, and definitely all through college, is make notes to yourself. As you're writing things down, if you don't understand something, what I used to do if I didn't understand something is I'd put a little question mark beside the statement that I wrote down. I didn't stop and freeze up and say, vapor lock, saying, I can't do this, okay? I just would summarize it, put a little question mark, and move on. Or sometimes I even wrote questions in the margin, okay? So you can draw a question mark or write specific questions. This is huge, you guys, because then whenever you have time in class, or you can come after school or before school or during +1 remediation, you can basically break out your notes, show it to your teacher, and she'll see your question marks and she can answer them. I tell my students this all the time that need help with their notes, and I've never seen anybody do it. Goodness, if I saw a kid do this, I'd probably weep. I'd be so happy, okay? It is an excellent strategy. Excellent, excellent strategy, because sometimes you might not remember what you didn't remember. That was an interesting sentence. Because I think I remember when I would take notes and I'm thinking, what is this person talking about? I don't know what's going on. And then I'm thinking in my head, oh, I'll remember. And I don't, okay? So this is a good way to do that, okay? That is all during class. Lots of things to do. Abbreviate, summarize, make notes to yourself, use symbols, okay? I think I left something out, but that's good, all right? After class. So we've done before, we've done during. Let's talk about after. This is one that I wish would happen way more than it does, okay? I know I want my kids to do this, and I feel like when I ask them to do this, they look at me like I'm crazy. After class, you guys, look back over your notes, okay? And next week, we're going to be talking about some ways to do this. And actually, I'm going to force some of you guys to do this in +1, all right? And you're not going to like it, but it's going to help you out tremendously, okay? So looking back over your notes is huge, okay? Huge, 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 all right? So if let's say that you had those gaps in your notes, okay? What you can do is that you can compare notes with a classmate. All right, so if you do have those gaps, now's a good time to be like, hey, yo, you, what'd you get for this? I didn't get it, and then go for it. If you got something weird or you want to make sure that you got something down right, you can compare it with a classmate. I know before I used PowerPoint presentations and my poor kids had to read my handwriting, kids would make up words, like, because they could have swore that I wrote like a word down and it didn't look right, so they would make one up on their notes and they thought that it was the right word. I'm not explaining that very well, but you know, if they had compared with a classmate or actually looked at that and said, that's not actually a word, okay, in reviewing their notes after class, then that would have helped them out considerably, okay? So comparing notes with a classmate is huge. And also you get that collaboration going on, which is awesome, all right? And identify those unclear concepts, okay? Those question marks that you wrote down, the blanks that you might have on purpose if you didn't get it from a classmate. Figure out what's going on, okay? Go talk to your teacher. You guys have opportunities to do that. You have the opportunity, all right? Use it, use it, use it, use it, okay? It's a great, excellent time to get caught up on anything that you might not be understanding. This last one is huge as well. Let's say that you wrote something down, okay, and you have no idea what it means. All right, I know we got lots of different strengths of vocabulary out there. Please, if you write down a word from a PowerPoint that your teacher thinks that you should know and you don't, you need to learn it. Okay, I remember years ago I had a kid ask me what the word increase means, okay, which is okay, that's fine. But I didn't know that child didn't know what that word meant until they talked to me, okay? So you can talk to your teachers, look these things up. If you don't have a dictionary, use your computer, all right? You can get an idea of what some of these words might mean that your teachers might think that you already know, okay? So it's also you taking ownership for your learning as well, okay? So we have before, during, and after class. So the big question here is, well, what now? All right, you guys, I'm going to keep finding these keep calm things. I don't know if anybody's noticed how many that I've found. They're all over the place. Is one, we want to keep calm and take notes, okay? Which is what you do anyway. You come to school, you take notes, okay? But I want to challenge you to try some of these strategies in class. Some of you guys might already do them, okay, which is wonderful. Good, 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 good for you. If you guys don't do this, pick one of them and try it, okay? You don't have to do all of them. Try abbreviating. Try using symbols. Try summarizing. Try writing question marks beside things that you don't understand. Pick two and go with it, okay? Please, this is just not a waste of time. Well, it is a waste of time if you just sit there and stare at a screen and don't practice anything that I share with you. Okay? Take one or two things away with you. All right? Next week in class, what we're going to do is that we're actually going to spend some time going over very specific ways to take notes. Okay, so here I just kind of gave you some very general overall strategies. Okay? All right, so with the